This is In Between Them, a podcast where we uncover what it really felt like to be a child of divorce. I am Shannon Darrow, and each episode brings honest stories from brave adults who lived through this as children. This is In Between Them. Let's get going. Hi, Tyson. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. As we were just saying, I'm enjoying the random sunny day that we have. So that's been a good start to the day. Before we get started, I was just hoping that you would give just a brief kind of snapshot just to kind of identify who you are for anyone who's listening so that they can, just understand who they're talking or who they're listening to and if there's ways that they can relate at all.
Okay, sure. So first of all, I was born here in Tualatin, and I have a younger brother. He's 3 years younger. And when I finished second grade, my parents moved us from Tualatin down to Medford, Oregon, for my dad's job. So that was in 1990. We were down there for 7 years. And then right after 8th grade, my dad sat us down as a family and was like, I'm moving out. I'm moving into an apartment. I don't remember him necessarily saying we're getting divorced, but kind of there's issues in the marriage. This is what's happening. And so then it was a year later after I finished 9th grade that my parents got divorced. So my mom was like, get me the heck out of here. I'm going back to Tualatin. So then we moved back up to this area, which kind of just that background, I think, kind of helps because I feel like I kind of had it a little bit easier because I was coming back to a place where I already had friendships, where we already knew people, where we already had family, like cousins and that sort of thing up here. So that I think in a sense kind of helped things.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
Go ahead.
Once my dad had sat us down, I then kind of played back in my mind. I was like, oh, I guess I have kind of noticed that over the past few months or whatever, my dad would get home from work and immediately come in and give my mom a hug and a kiss. And that hadn't been happening. And you didn't really notice it in the moment. But then once this happened, I was like, oh, I guess I haven't seen that happen in, 6 months or whatever.
Yeah. So leading up to that in 8th grade, that's when your dad sat you down. And let me clarify. So your dad sat you down. Where was your mom?
She was sitting behind me on the couch. So my dad and my brother were on a couch in front of me. And then me and my mom, the couches were L-shaped. And then I was on the front of the other couch and she was behind me. So I hear her sobbing behind me the whole time.
Wow.
And my dad's yeah, this isn't working. And then it was interesting too, because my mom later on was like, well, don't you remember? Because this is back in the 90s, right? When everyone records opening presents for Christmas. She's like, well, don't you remember last Christmas, he gave her a self-help marriage VHS or something. And I'm too young to it just went right over my head. But my mom's like, oh, thanks. What is this supposed to mean? Just weird things like that.
Yeah.
That you're just
so leading up to that point though, aside from looking back and then picking up on a few things, there was no kind of awareness. Was there discontent? Was there yelling? Was there anything that led you to
there wasn't any yelling. My dad was in sales, so he traveled. He was usually out of town 2 to 3 nights, not necessarily every week, but fairly regularly. But yeah, no, I don't remember any yelling. I don't remember any arguments. Yeah.
Wow. So then
part of that kind of thing because he was out of the house.
Right. Yeah. So you have that conversation, and then what happens after that?
So then, I don't remember what day of the week it was or anything, but he moved out pretty quickly. And this sounds ridiculous, but part of the fun, I guess, is that he moved into an apartment right next to one of my best friends' dad, who had also recently left his marriage. So these two
Wow.
dads are in side by side apartments, and I'm getting to come every other weekend and hang out with my best friend who's now like next door with her dad. And it's like this, I don't know, it sounds ridiculous, but it was like this, like something I almost look forward to um, in the
Well,
separation.
what a crazy weird way to normalize what you were going through, you know?
Yeah.
Like your friends
Well,
here
and
doing
like,
the
and
same
it
living
was,
the same life.
yeah, yeah. And some other really good friends of ours that lived two or three houses up the street, their dad had recently moved out too. So I guess another thing looking back was that same year for Christmas, before my dad moved out, we got gifted like a trip to Hawaii for spring break. And we were going with this neighbor family, and but the dads weren't coming. And it was like, oh yeah, played off as, oh, the dads are working, they're busy, whatever. And so it was the moms, and the both families had two kids, so the six of us went off to Hawaii for spring break. And then now that since that Christmas, both dads have moved out of the house, it clicked like, oh, okay, that's why they didn't come on this trip to Hawaii, is because things were in the works. Yeah.
That is so interesting that they were, like, doing it simultaneously. How
Yeah.
close of
And then,
friends were I mean, you clearly were very close if you went on a trip
oh yeah.
together.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, yeah, neighbors. Me, the son was my age, and the daughter was a couple years younger, but I was closer with the daughter, being two girls. And I mean, we did sleepovers all the time. We were got together to watch football games, or all the things. And so in that year, their family was a little bit ahead of ours. But like, their dad moves out, our dad moves out. They get divorced, we get divorced. They moved out of their house, we moved out of our house. Like, and so I
Wow.
remember the following Christmas, the moms were like, it's been a shitty year. We're going to Hawaii again. And so, like, we went again for the following spring break because the moms were like,
What?
screw it. This has been a hell of a
Yeah.
year. Like, we got
Wow.
to have something to look forward to. So,
Not that I would wish this on anyone, but tandem divorcing could be a thing.
yeah, right.
Because, I mean, there's so much about the shame and the embarrassment and all of that everyone's going through. But if you're kinda going through it all at the
Mhm.
same time as someone that you're that close to, kids and adults,
Yeah.
it's oddly comforting, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, again, I
Yeah.
don't think that this should become a thing, but that probably really helped you in a lot of different ways early on, like,
Yeah.
right in the beginning of it, you know? That's so interesting. So, then you moved back up to kind of north of where you were the next year? So,
Yeah.
after that
So,
spring break or
so my dad moved out in the summer after eighth grade. And so then that whole school year of my freshman year is when, we moved out of our house. They finalized their divorce. My mom was like, I'm moving back to the Portland area. And so then that following summer after ninth grade is when we moved back up here.
okay. And so I hear you when you said, moving kind of back to a place versus mom moved me somewhere new is a totally
I was
different
upset. I
situation.
didn't want to move.
Yeah.
Like, I was
But
so
but at
offended at
least you're going somewhere where you know like you've been
that. Yes.
before and you know people, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, uprooting you because you'd been there for what'd you say, 7 years? You'd
7
been so
years.
like
Yeah.
all your school life basically.
Yeah. So like, I had best friends. I had my first boyfriend that I was leaving, all this
Did
stuff.
you
But
try to talk to your mom about staying?
I mean, yeah, because I was like, I'm staying with dad. And she's like, absolutely not. I'm not splitting up you and your brother. Like, and which to me felt odd because he and I have never gotten along well. I mean, we get along fine now as adults, but as kids,
Yeah.
we were like oil and water. Like, and I was like, why wouldn't you want to split us up? Like, I feel like it'd make your life so much easier.
That's so
um, but yeah, and then what also helped, I guess, was we moved up to Portland. And first I had my two best friends who were very active soccer players, like some fancy soccer leagues. So no joke, all summer long they were up in Portland, either at soccer camps or for playing games. And they would stay at my house with me,
wow.
every weekend. Um, and then that was an odd summer because it was like 2 weeks in Portland with mom, 2 weeks in Medford with dad, like all the way through the summer until school started. So then I was also going back to Medford and getting to see people there. And then so it would have been my sophomore year. I was in my last year of braces, and my mom was like, "Well, I'm not going to transfer all your dental care. Like, my dad was up here once a month for sales meetings, so she just coincided my orthodontist appointments. So he would come up for his meeting, bring me back to Medford. I'd go to my orthodontist appointment, which was walkable to the high school, and then just walk around and hang out at the high school with my friends down in Medford after my appointment,
Oh my
which would never
God.
be allowed now. But back in the 90s, I was like, whatever.
That's so funny. So
Yeah.
Portland is how far from Medford? I mean, it's like 2 or 3
It
hours,
was
isn't
about
it?
4.5 hours.
Okay, so it's not, I mean, it's
Yeah,
a good drive. Yeah.
it's a good drive.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and when possible, like my parents
So
would meet in the middle and I campus off. So,
okay. Yeah, that would make sense. So when so you get through that summer of going like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. What happens when you kind of get into your sophomore year of high school in terms of seeing your dad during the school year?
so he ended up moving up to Wilsonville, which was a couple minutes away, and I want to say that was maybe in the winter, like maybe right after the holidays or something. So he eventually, because he wanted to be closer to my brother and I, so he did move up. Um, I remember it was definitely by the end of my sophomore year, but I want to say sometime like in the winter, like January, February ish.
Okay. Okay.
And the
So he
other
was
thing that
closer
was
then too.
before he moved, he would come up for his, every other weekend. And my uncle was in Wilsonville. And so he would stay with my uncle, which that was then fun too, because I have one of my best friends is my cousin who's my age. And so it was like sleepover
Oh
with
my gosh.
my cousins, you know?
Your dad really lucked out.
Yeah.
He had all these like
Yeah,
people waiting in the
right?
wings to make it, so much more exciting. That's so
Right.
interesting. What okay, so what was the relationship like between your parents when all this was going on? Was it easy? Was it nice? Was it, did they talk
I think
about
they
each
were
other?
cordial. Yeah, they were cordial, like at handoffs and stuff. And like, as far as I could tell, like if anything needed to be switched, like a weekend or, they had their holiday arrangements all laid out. As far as I remember, they were pretty cordial. It wasn't until my senior year that I think was the first time I saw my mom like really like lay into him. And I don't remember exactly what it was about, but I just remember they were in her kitchen and she was like, "When did you turn into such an asshole?" And I just was like, "Oh boy, okay, I'm gonna go back to my bedroom." Like, not sure what this is about, but other than that, like,
Wow.
I feel like they actually got along pretty well, at least in front of my brother and I.
Yeah. As like later on in life, did you ever learn more that enlightened you to kind of more of what happened between them, or did anything come to light that, made you look at something in a
Sort of,
different
maybe.
way?
My mom fully believes that my dad had an affair. Um, to my stepmom, like they did get married. My dad's passed; it's been 10 years now, but they were married when he died. But they the thing that I get confused about with that is I remember after the divorce, he dated at least two other women seriously enough to introduce my brother and I to before he got into this relationship with my stepmom. So, and she was married too. So I don't know. Maybe there was some sort of an affair going on. Maybe there wasn't. My mom is just she's convinced that there was, and I don't know. I was too young to really know what was going on. So maybe not.
Well, and as you don't need to know. Yeah. Yeah. So in then so you really, I mean, outside of that incident when you were a senior in high school, I think you said, did you witness any more kind of acrimony between the two of them, or was it kind of always the way that you've described?
No, it was always pretty cordial. And I mean, especially once, I was out of college. So when I was right after I graduated, was it? I don't remember. After I graduated high school, but before my brother graduated high school, my dad moved back down to Southern Oregon. And so then, because I remember like the best summer of my life, my brother went down there and worked on a golf course living with my dad. And it was like great because he was gone all summer. But other than that, like they really didn't see each other that often. And like once my brother and I were out of school, they didn't really have to talk about much either.
Right, right. So here's a question for you because you said it a couple of times. You said they were always cordial, or I guess they were cordial. That is written into actual divorce judgments a lot. Like both people should be cordial to each other, you know? And that means a lot of different things to people because as someone who's angry at someone else, cordial might mean that I just kind of look at you and maybe I kind of
Mm-hmm.
half smile. You know what I mean? Or it can mean
Yeah.
that I have a full on conversation with you in front of the children. So when you say they were cordial, what did that actually look like to you as a kid?
Like when my dad would come pick us up, like they would say hi. He'd usually come in, maybe just into like the entryway, not usually much farther than that. My mom would kind of help get us settled or whatever, and then see us off, and then same thing, other direction. I feel like my dad was usually the one coming to my mom's house. I don't remember my mom really ever taking us to his house. Um, but even as an adult, like I remember I had a new apartment and my mom let me take one of her couches and my dad had a truck. And so him and my uncle showed up to take it. And I mean, they were like bantering the whole time, but I mean, this was also, you know, 20 years ago, I was just out of college or something. So they had been divorced for quite some time at that point, but nothing was uncomfortable. They chit chat, they, catch up or whatever, but, not too in depth at the same time.
Yeah. Was that the
I
same
remember
kind
it
of
was
when you got
interesting.
married? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, what's that? The end of that cut out.
I said, was that like a similar way that they were like at your wedding, let's say?
So what was interesting was because I'm on my second marriage. My first marriage, um, my mom was, whatever, doing her thing. My dad was doing his thing. But what was interesting was my stepmom, like, wouldn't participate. Like, we're there doing like the rehearsal or whatever, and she's like standing in the back. My parents are both up, and then they're like, and now we need, the stepmom. Like, this is where you would come. This is how you would walk up. This is how you get to your seat. And she was, for some reason, she was so hesitant and stand off, like almost would avoid my mom, which that's the only thing that ever made me think, maybe there was something there going on, before. But yeah,
Yeah,
she would kind
yeah.
of avoid any
Interesting.
interaction. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Do you think that your parents getting divorced had anything to do with being married twice?
No, but one thing that I did think was interesting was in college, I took a class, I don't remember, it was on like some relationships or something. One of the things that I thought was crazy was they brought up and they were like, this day and age, so this would have been like maybe 2002, 2003. They're like, people go into marriage, their first marriage, thinking that it's going to be their first marriage and thinking that it's going to be their practice marriage for a future marriage, like a second marriage afterwards. And I just was like, what? Who gets married planning to get divorced and get remarried? And they just said like if you look at like divorce rates and stuff, it's like 50%. But if you look at the people that are still married, it's all these couples that got married like back in the 50s and 60s and are just too traditional and are set in their ways to like go through the process of like the divorce. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that was interesting.
That's
But
so
no, my first
fascinating.
divorce
I
was
wonder, yeah. Um, I wonder if they still say that because we're what, 23 years past 2002. I wonder if they still say people
yeah,
are
yeah.
practicing or if they're planning now for like 3 or 4 marriages.
Oh gosh, that's crazy.
So, in all of this, you have your brother. Do you think he was
Hmm.
impacted differently, or do you think that he was impacted similarly to you? Because some of the things you said that we kind of joked about, normalized things, seem to be centered a little bit
Yeah.
around your friends or places you like to be. Was that the same case for him?
Hmm. Yes and no. Like with our cousins, yes, because he had another cousin his age. With our family friends who were next door in the apartment, they had girls, so not so much that aspect. And then the family who we traveled with, same thing. He was the youngest by like a couple of years, so the other boy was my age, and so they kind of hung out together. But there was a 3 to 4 year age difference there. But also like just within our family, um, my I have two. My dad's older brother had been divorced twice. My dad's younger brother had been divorced once. And my mom has a brother who had been divorced. So it just, and then add in all like the close family friends who had been divorced, it just kind of felt like it was our turn to me. Like that's kind of the way I took it when my dad like let us know that he was going to be moving out. Um, I was in 8th grade, so my brother would have just finished 5th grade. So I don't know that he would have necessarily processed it quite the same, but I feel like he was kind of more of a problem like in high school with my mom. And I don't know if that was a result of the divorce or not, but like I remember her having a hard
Yeah.
time with him just being a boy teenager.
Yeah. Well, in 8th grade to 5th grade is a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So when you look back and you kind of think, and I think that, kind of by very unpredictable events, you had like a smoother path, I would say.
I think
But
so. Yeah.
not in ways you could prescribe to people. Like, hey, if you're going to get divorced, find a friend that's
Right.
getting divorced too,
Right.
who has kids. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you see, I mean, do you see that now as being just super fortunate that that's kind of how it all played out for you guys?
Oh, totally. Like I feel like I could have been way worse, like towards my mom, especially had I not had like my friends there for support and that sort of thing. Because I mean, I was definitely upset about moving. Like I gave her a hard time about that for I don't even know how long, but because I really was like, I'll just stay with dad. I can stay in Medford with dad. Like there is no reason why I have to move back. And I was what 15 at the time, like
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. It's actually amazing that you went with her because those are all reasons that a kid would fight to stay. And I mean, it's great that your dad ended up coming up because then you
Mhm.
were all kind of in the same area, at least for a while. But is there anything else looking back that you think was done well for you guys, was done, in a way that could have been done differently that sticks out at you as something that when you reflect, you think about? Anything else that is significant?
I mean, it all seems it all seemed pretty common. See dad every other weekend. Um, to what you typically hear about in like a traditional divorce where the kids go with the mom, the dad gets like one night a week and every other weekend, and then you have to alternate holidays. Like we did all of that. So I guess just seeing other people doing the same things, it just made it feel like that's just what divorce was and that's how it goes and you kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
But
Did
I
you
do kind of
keep going?
remember
Go ahead.
I remember kind of holidays, certain holidays. I loved, for whatever reason, I loved Thanksgiving at my dad's house. I don't know, something about like my grandparents being there and then like other relatives, where I couldn't even tell you a memory of Thanksgiving with my mom's side of the family. So I feel like that year was the hardest for me. It was like I'd rather be at dad's for Thanksgiving. I don't want to be at mom's for Thanksgiving. But all the other holidays, I feel like we figured out how to make Christmas Eve work, that sort of thing. But I remember for whatever reason, Thanksgiving being the hardest because I wanted to always be at my dad's, but obviously that didn't fly. So
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever try to go with your dad's, or did you just kind of accept that that was the plan?
I think I just kind of accepted it. Partly because I knew like if I put up too much of a fight, it would, hurt my mom, and I didn't want to cause her any more stress. Once I matured enough to
Yeah.
realize I was causing her stress.
Yeah. Did you keep going back and forth to your dad's through all of high school, or did at some point it
Mhm.
stop?
Nope, all through high school. And then, like I said, it was, I want to say maybe my freshman or sophomore, must have been my freshman year of college that he moved back down to Eagle Point. And I did think that was a little strange because my brother still had 2 more years in high school. So I
Yeah.
found that kind of odd that he chose that time, but whatever. And then it was also kind of odd when my brother did graduate high school. He came up and it was an outdoor celebration, and we were maybe halfway through. My dad's like, "Well, I gotta go," and I'm like, "He hasn't even walked across like the line to like accept his diploma yet." And I remember it was he would do certain things like that, and then that's when off to the side, and when he wasn't around, my mom would make like little comments or little digs that I was like, well, she's not wrong, but she probably really
Right.
shouldn't be like saying those things in front of us.
Yeah. Your brother probably had a very different perspective on these things than
Hmm.
you have,
Right.
because ultimately they were not being done to him, but you can see how he would think or could think as a kid that these were being done to
Hmm.
him when it wasn't done to you, type of thing. So that's
Right.
interesting. Interesting just how a couple years makes a difference for kids with parents and what they do. Well, if is there anything else you could think of that you think is important to share? I mean, I think that aside from the kind of coincidental um, tandem divorcing situation, it also does sound like
Hmm.
your parents tried to be good parents and good people to each other, considering the fact
Hmm.
that you really didn't hear anything negative until years later. Um, and it's just it's nice to hear these kind of smoother stories where parents, even if they didn't want to, they accepted their situation and continued to
Hmm.
parent in a way that kind of respected the other parent and insulated the children from whatever else was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, like I remember, through college, like they worked together to, support me through college. And then I was 27 when I got married my first time. And I remember them, talking quite a bit to coordinate, how they were splitting up payments for that and sort of thing. And yeah, like once I don't really know what the turning point was or if it was just time, but definitely in my adult life, they my 20s and 30s, like they were totally cordial and comfortable and could be in the same room and, had really no issue with one another.
Did it ever come up in conversation with them how they felt or how they did that, or did that ever come up in any way?
I don't think so. And like my mom even stayed close with like my dad's parents and stuff. Like would talk to my grandma a couple of times a year and send birthday cards and Christmas cards and stuff. And um, at the wedding, like I remember my dad and my uncles from my mom's side just being like so happy to see each other and reconnect and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was
I
pretty
think
good.
that's such it's I think that's great. And it's an example of how, the family might break up, for lack of a better way to say it, but you have all these kind of third parties that are involved that can choose to be awful or can
Hmm.
choose to be good. And there are definitely circumstances where people find that very difficult because of what people do to each other or whatever. But in these circumstances where, in-laws and uncles and aunts and people stay connected in a positive way, I think it does greatly impact the children in so many ways, for good. And I think that's, another
Hmm.
thing that you had going for you for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my grandma, my mom's mom, was the only one who was like bitter or like constantly having like negative things to say about all of it. But like everyone else was, still in good terms with one another. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
hmm.
Well, I thank you so much for sitting down and sharing your story with me. I
Yeah.
have one final question that is more of just like a lighthearted question that has nothing to do with divorce. But I ask everyone, what is a recent good book that you have read and would recommend?
Oh my gosh. I think I might be in the minority that I really don't read books. Like I don't even read
Okay, have
I
you
don't even
listened
like
to a great
listen to audiobooks or any of it. Like and the funny thing is
Oh my gosh,
I
don't
ask
tell
for
your
books
children
and I
that.
get yeah, I know I don't. I'm like girls you got to read every night. Um
Oh my gosh.
I don't
What about,
know.
have you
I've
listened to a
never
good podcast
no, I
or
don't
seen a
listen
good
to
movie?
podcasts. Um
What do you do?
I don't know. Well, I'm in school for my master's right now, so that takes up a lot of time.
Oh, okay. That is a
Yeah.
good excuse. That's a very good excuse.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let it
I'm
slide.
trying to
Maybe
think.
did you watch the Olympics?
We have been watching the Olympics, yes.
Oh my goodness gracious. I bet you've watched like
I'm
a
all
bunch
caught
of
up on
Bluey or something.
Bridgerton.
What?
I'm all caught up on Bridgerton.
Are you
Um,
there? We cut out for a sec.
yeah,
I think you
yeah.
said something about a show at the same time I said, well, you probably watch a lot of Bluey or something.
We watched some Bluey, but I'm caught up on Bridgerton, is what I said.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So there you go. There's a recommendation. Wonderful.
yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, thank you again so much. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
yeah. No problem.
Thanks for tuning in. Together we can shape healthier paths for families to do divorce better. See you next time on In Between Them.